back to the laundry list. You got Todd, Blake, and Soraya here. Charles is on vacation at the Proton softball tournament in Vegas, I think, or that was this last week. Anyway, we have a very special guest today, but hope everybody had a great week and was nice to my friend. And before we get too deep into the laundry list, which obviously we are a podcast about relationships and how to have healthy relationships with boundaries, love, and compassion. Blake's going to read the laundry list, which we try to identify as the former traits that we used to live in before we got help and started doing the work that we talk about on this podcast. So Blake.
Thanks, Todd. This is the laundry list. Number 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. Number 3, we are frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. 4, we either become alcoholics, marry them or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. 5, we live life from the viewpoint of victims, and we are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. 6, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. 8, we become addicted to excitement. 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhood and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Denial. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings, which we received from living with sick people who were never there emotionally for us. 13, alcoholism is family disease, and we became para-alcoholic and took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. 14, para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors.
Wow, what a list. Yeah, it's amazing how every time I hear that list, I still am just amazed on how, even with years of recovery, therapy, meditation, prayer, God, I still feel like when I hear some of those things, like very low sense of self-esteem. Like I can get so down on myself. I just met with a friend of mine at coffee, actually right next door. We are in a new spot here for Pod Populi, and we love this new spot, much bigger, and we feel much more important in this studio. But anyway, I was talking to my friend at coffee, and it's like, you know, from the outside, I think this guy's got it all figured out. You know, he's got a lot of money. He's good looking. He's like in his 30s, like, and then when I talk to him, he's like everybody else. We're just like scared. Like we're scared what other people think. We're scared that he's not going to meet a girl. He's scared he's not going to have kids. And it's like the fear just runs rampant. And I got to continue to do this work so I stay out of that mindset and live a life from the viewpoint of like power, self-esteem, and love, self-love mostly. But I'm excited to introduce a guest of mine today who I can call him family, or he is family. And he's got a great story. He works an amazing program, and he's a guy that I really want to get to know better and I look up to. So with that, Tory, welcome to the laundry list.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited that you listen to this and that you're as passionate about this stuff as I am, and you take this stuff seriously, because you know what happens when we don't take this stuff seriously.
Yeah. It's funny when you were just talking about the buddy you just had coffee with. I was listening. I didn't have coffee with you a minute ago.
Yeah, we can all identify with that guy.
Yeah, because that's me. You know, I'm even today. You know, the things I've overcome in my life and everything, like still full of fear.
Yeah.
Like
yep.
All 14.
Yeah.
You know? And still when I hear that laundry list, I get frustrated.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, the laundry list, it's not like all of a sudden we wake up one day and we have the laundry list. Like this is shit that happened when we were very young.
Yeah.
This is stuff that happened probably from when I was a newborn to like 15 years old. And I didn't really have a choice.
Right.
I didn't have a choice on who my parents are, what my environment was, who my friends were. Like, this is stuff that just was kind of my hand, the hand that I was dealt. And I developed the laundry list really as a survival mechanism to cope and deal with all this trauma and fear that was, handed to me. And thank God I have the tools today not to stay in that, but like the guy I just had coffee with, we were talking about, like, he got a compliment from his dad and he didn't even know how to handle it because he's not used to that.
Yeah.
He's used to the criticism, shame, and guilt and judgment, but he got a compliment and he actually threw it right back at him. Like, oh, no, that's not true. Like, and I get that. Like I'm still at 55 and 24 years sober and doing this work. Like I'm not good at receiving and accepting compliments.
Yeah, same here. Like somewhere inherent deep down, like I know I'm a good dude, right? Like I know I am. I love people and I love helping people. But if someone looks at me and goes, "Man, you're great," I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, you can't even look him in the eye. You just get discombobulated.
Right. Hey, man, I'm proud of you. Like, you shouldn't be.
Right. So why don't you take us back a little bit to those years of sort of 0 to 15 and kind of what was sort of your trauma? What was some of your makeup that created, Tory that is today and that was before he got into recovery and got some help?
Yeah. Man, anytime I'm speaking at a meeting, I usually start my story off with the same thing, man. My first memory was mom and dad fighting, right? And like my first feeling was something's wrong with me. And growing up, my dad was a Special Forces Vietnam vet. He was a scary dude, and my mom suffered with alcoholism, but at that age, like, man, I didn't know anything about anything, right? I remember mom taking me to school on Saturdays, right? But my sister wasn't in the car. This happened on 2 occasions, like, and she would drop me off and I'd be standing in front of the school. Nobody's there, and I'm just standing there. And dad would come pick me up, and like that happened a couple times, and I thought it was normal, right? And
but she was just drunk, or okay,
I know that today,
yeah,
And I have an older sister who's 10 months older than me, 10 months, 10 days older than me. I was born 3.5 months premature. Here's another thing, like,
wow.
Mom didn't even know she was pregnant when I was born. They thought she had a tumor. She was drinking and using while she was pregnant, and just super unhealthy. And boom, one day she goes into labor.
Wow.
With twins.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was I was born, and they immediately told her and dad both, he's probably not going to make it. And what I learned was that my twin absorbed most of the drugs and alcohol. So here I am, Tory the tumor.
Wow. So your twin sister did not make it, or?
Yeah, I don't know if it's sister or brother or whatever. No, they did not make it.
So you absorbed the nutrients and you made it, and your twin did not.
Yeah. My lungs weren't developed. I spent, I don't know, the first months of my life, I don't know how long in an incubator, because they didn't really have the steroids that they give babies nowadays, right? So I was just in this box. And
how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay.
Yeah. And
me too, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Killing it. I mean, that's another thing, not to get off topic, but like I have scars on my chest from the tubes they put in me, right? Super insecure. I was 6 weeks premature, and back then that was like, wow. Yeah.
3 months premature is usually you don't make it at 3 months. Yeah.
So like that alone, like I'm a miracle.
Right.
The rest of my story is just like, damn. But and like, I'm not saying that at ego. It's just like something I get to reflect on, something I know about my truth today. It's like, I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah. So what were some of the things that caused trauma, you think, in your earlier years that like, oh, okay, so that's why I acted like the laundry list trait number 4, 5, 6. I
Right.
became a people pleaser. I diffused situations that were scary.
Yeah. So mom and dad got divorced when I was like 5, right? And mom was just gone. And like she was my safe spot, right? Because, I'm not character assassinating my father, but like he had his own demons, right? And like loudest one in the room wins, right? And not only that, but when I messed up, it was physical abuse. I never got hit in the face or punched or anything, but the absolute terror that man would cause, it made me scared of anyone who got loud for the rest of my life. I know that today. And like as a result of mom leaving, my grandmother became like the feminine role, and dad was a truck driver. He was not home very often, and my grandmother drank. She also spoiled me and gave me everything I needed, right? But I don't know, man. Like I always felt like I was chasing a safe zone. Like I wanted to be safe with someone or something. Didn't know what it was, and man, I just didn't have it. I didn't have it. So
where'd you find it? I mean, obviously couldn't find it with mom or dad. So where did you find that safe spot?
I found it with the dudes drinking, doing drugs,
That was the ease and comfort you were looking for.
Absolutely. Like the first time I took a pull off a bottle or first time I smoked weed, it literally was that's it, like I'm comfortable in my skin. I can hold conversations. I can be funny.
And what years did that start to happen?
Man, I think I was 14 or 15, and I just found this group of kids and like they liked a certain music. So I liked that certain music. Right. They behaved one way. So I behaved that way. And
you wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
You wanted to feel safe. You didn't want to get rejected.
Yeah. With no clue what I was looking for, but it was just safe. I was safe. And man, I kept doing that, but I kind of quickly found out that, or rather they found out, like they just didn't want to get down like I got down, like I'll finish a bag in the night and they're like talking about next weekend, that didn't make sense to me.
Right. You had no stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it was, man. I never really got to know who I was or what I was interested in, what I was good at. I never got any of that because all I wanted to do was feel better, because my reactions in between the bottle or the bag, when it wasn't, that's what terrified me the most. A lot of people think 12-step recovery is like how to get sober, right? It's not. It's how to live sober, right? And the idea of everyday normal life, especially when I knew adulthood was coming, like I was about to turn 18 or whatever, like the idea of a normal, responsible adult life terrified me so much. Like, man, I wanted to make music and get fucked up. Like, that's all I wanted, right? Because like anything outside of that
It was scary.
Yeah,
You didn't think you could do it.
right. My skin didn't fit anymore. You know what I mean? Instantly, even before 18, man, like suicidal thoughts. Like, I don't belong in this world. Everybody else has the manual to life. I missed it. I don't know what it is. Suicidal thoughts were an everyday thing, nearly all day thing for most of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough place to live.
Yeah.
You don't want to be here, but you don't have the guts to leave. And it's like you're in that zone where you're just like, I can't enjoy myself. I can't enjoy life,
Yeah. So dad got sick when I was 18, terminal cancer. And
how old? You were 18?
Yeah. And my brother was in rehab in California. My sister was pregnant. And I'm like trying to hide this opiate addiction. but I had to take care of dad, you know?
Yeah.
And my stepmom had to work, and dad just didn't have, and this was a very charismatic man. Like the whole city respected him, you know? So to see like,
This is your dad was the truck driver?
yeah, like, man, he was everything, right? Like before I was born, he was a gangster, like sold guns and drugs and all kinds of crazy shit.
Wow.
But like me and my sister was born, and he was a construction worker for a long time. And like, but like where my memory really starts to come into play was like him being a truck driver. Right. And he had 3 heart attacks while he was driving the truck. And so they paid for him to go to school. So he went to school, became a computer technician. Right. And while he was in school, I think I was 11 or 12, he would come home. This is a kind of a cool story. He came home one day and he puts this book that says HTML 101, right? Web design. And him and my grandma always like pushed me, scared me into reading, right? So
I like that. Scared me into reading.
Yeah, they
it's
did.
Like my
right?
grandma.
Right.
Same thing.
Here's the thing, man. Like I grew up.
You're going to be on the streets if you don't learn to read. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, man, I grew up in kind of a podunk town. Right. And my dad was not about that. You know, he's just like, you're going to get good grades. And when you come home, you're going to learn some more. And that's how he was. So he puts this book about web design next to me, and he just looks at me and he says, have a website done by the time I get home. And like, man, I'm like ready to piss my pants.
Right.
I'm like, in code? Like,
right.
But I did it. I did it. Right.
Probably felt great about yourself.
I did. Right. And it was like, and it was cooler than just about anything I'd experienced in my life up to that point. Right. And like, I couldn't wait to like, as a kid, like, I don't really remember the feeling, but it was similar to, I can't wait to shove this in his face. Right. Look what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But something changed when he got home. He teared up. He couldn't believe that I did it. Right. So the next morning, I wake up and he's getting ready to leave, and he says, come here, and pulls me into the room. He's got his computer completely taken apart, down to the nuts and bolts, with a book next to it. And he says, have it running and operational by the time I get home. I did it. That was the cool part of my dad.
Right.
You know, that was the very cool part. Getting off topic, man, but
so he passed away when you were 18.
yeah.
And was that really hard to overcome and
Yeah, man.
feel
Like,
that loss?
man, I didn't grieve it until I got sober.
Mm.
I didn't. I made my dad's death all about me. Right. He passed away on my brother's birthday. And, you know, we were all there and held his hand while he passed. And man, that was my excuse to go harder into drugs and alcohol. Right.
So you don't want to feel.
Right. Right. I became slightly estranged with mom, you know, when I started using and everything. Like I stopped visiting mom, stopped coming out here. And, but man, I was tore up, and I truly believed like it was the town that was causing all my misery. Right. So I called mom and, can I come live out there? And, you know, absolutely. So like around 19, I came out here to live with mom and Jim, and like I got this job at Safeway, and you know, I'm sneaking alcohol into their house, and I'm popping pills here and there, and like for 11 months, like I maintained this job, but I was terrified of everything. Like I didn't want any friends. I didn't want to like really connect with anybody, especially my mom. Because I still had the resentment. Like, man, you left when I was 5. You owe me this.
Right.
Right. I was a punk.
Right.
You know?
But you didn't know how to do any different.
Yeah.
I mean, Blake, what do you think? Because I know you and I have talked about resentments with parents and not having the tools to forgive them and find compassion. Like, I mean, today it's easy to deal with it. Not easy, but it's like we have tools. But back then,
it's easier.
Yeah. But back then, it's like, you know, you ruined my life.
Yeah.
You know?
The hatred and the like, I mean, remember being like like borderline kind of homeless. Like if you understand that, like
Oh yeah.
borderline homeless, like no one wants you, but you sometimes can catch couches from time to time. Being like in the middle of the summer, being like, this is all my parents' fault.
Right.
Like because of my upbringing and all the things that you did to me, like I am the way that I am.
Yeah.
And like that hatred of like, you know, why did you fuck me up so bad?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, it just kind of like compounds. And then it's like that hate spiral, like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to show you, like, and you know, you end up doing, you know, more drugs and more destructive things.
Right.
And,
Because you're so
you know,
angry.
it just the anger just spirals completely out of control.
So when that starts to seep in today, like what do you guys do when you start to feel anger towards, you know, parents or, you know, mentors of yours?
Yeah. I mean, I've had, my recent battle hasn't been with my parents, but it's been with my wife's family. And, for stuff that's black and white wrong. Right. But that anger, even though it's justifiable, isn't healthy. Right. And understanding what my, as soon as I can figure out what my piece in it is and what my role it is in, and then just flip it on like, you know, a place of compassion and a place of like, you know, I genuinely like, I wish that they weren't feeling this way, because if they weren't feeling this way, they wouldn't act this way. And then, you know, really genuinely like praying for them. And as soon as I can get, even if I don't mean it, right, and I'm praying for that person that I'm angry at, and at first it's not it's not genuine, you know, it's like, it starts off with like, I pray that this person gets hit by a car, because that would be justice, right? And then it eventually comes into a place of love and understanding. But it's the quicker that I can do that, the easier it is to move on and move past it, because that anger is a good emotion when it's used correctly, right?
Yeah. And I think we all three have shared that commonality with our parents, and having that anger, resentment, self-justified, like, you fucked me up. Look where I am now. You know, if I just had a normal, loving upbringing, I'd be fine. And you realize that, you know, sometimes in life, the hardest things that we overcome become our greatest asset, and lead us to love, and lead us to the work, and lead us to healthier relationships, and helping others that are experiencing similar things.
Yeah, man. One of the things I tell guys is my greatest success in life was a failed attempt at suicide.
Yeah.
You know, like, man, I had no idea what, you know, if somebody would have told me I'd be here, man, I probably would have tried again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And for me, cause I have a similar kind of story to that, is like, thank God it did, you know, we weren't successful, because then, you know, we know what it's like to be in that place. Right. Yeah. And be able to get through it and get to the other side. Cause, you know, it's incomprehensible demoralization, you know, and it's like, there's no,
the pain that you're in. You don't have you don't think you have an out,
thinking about
and
it.
you just need relief. And that's why, like, I would drink till I passed out, because I just didn't want to feel.
Yeah.
You know, and I just wanted it to go away.
Yeah.
You know, and now, I mean, when you're sober and you have those feelings, it's even worse, because you don't have the alcohol and drugs to anesthetize, and you're like, fuck, I still have this pain, but now I don't have my go-to option. So now what do I do? Yeah. And then you got to sit in it. And then you got to figure out how to start connecting with God. And then you got to, like, you know, start really doing the work, because you don't have to get the kind of the cheat sheet, you know, with drugs and alcohol.
Right. And that's the thing, man, is like, back on talking about the anger part, like, in my experience, is like, every experience of anger I've ever had is attached to fear. Right. And like, nearly every fear I've ever had, I can trace back to my parents, you know. Right. Not all of them, but like,
and guess what? They had the same shit when they were your age, you know.
Exactly.
When they were your age, they were scared shitless, and they're still scared shitless their age, even though they passed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 55 and I could tell you, my fears are just as real now as they were when I was 16, but I don't feed into them like I used to.
Right.
Like, I don't have to believe them.
Right. And our parents didn't have what we have.
Yeah.
Right. They just carried all that until they had kids.
Right.
So like,
And then they got out of it by controlling and manipulating and scaring their kids. So they didn't have to look at themselves,
right?
And it's just like it's a vicious circle. And today I can honestly say, like, I usually lead from a sense of love, kindness, and compassion to everybody.
Yeah. Even
if it's not my first initial thought and feeling, but I get there.
Yeah.
So when I have that feeling of like, you screwed me over, this guy doesn't call me back, or this guy, is angry and mean, scares me when I hang out with them, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, I can eventually pretty quickly get to a place of love, compassion, and kindness.
Yeah.
By just doing the repetition and the work.
Exactly.
And the prayers and like connecting with God and God, what do you want me to know about this situation?
Yeah.
I just told the guy at the coffee shop, I go, write a letter from God to you. What does he want you to know about yourself?
Yeah.
And whatever he wants you to know about yourself, that's what you need to believe and know about yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're all God. Like there's an eternal part of all of us that never dies, right?
Yeah.
We might lose this body, but that eternal spirit soul goes with us everywhere. And that's the part, that's the love, right? It's like, Todd, Tory, Blake, we're going to be gone in a blink of an eye. And it's like, no, that eternal love, that eternal spirit is going to live on. That's the part that needs to talk to the human ego, Todd. And like, hey, it's cool. We don't need to be scared. Yeah. We don't need to freak out about money, kids, relationships. Like it's all fine. We're all here to learn. We're all here to do the best we can.
And it's like once you get on the other side of it, like, and other people are coming to you with like those kind of issues, it's like, it's almost like a superpower. Yeah. Like once you realize that like fear doesn't control, like the money insecurity or whatever, it's like, it'll all work out. It's the Chinese proverb, like, the something happened, how unlucky. Well, maybe, maybe, because who knows, right? And it's that for me, especially with my parents now, I can look back and I'm like, I'm almost grateful. Like I've really come to a place of like gratitude, for going through that, because it's made me who I am today. And it's taught me more than any MBA from Harvard or any school, like how to go through that and how to hopefully, if and when I have kids, to be able to like, try, and who knows, I'll probably fuck my own kids up too. Like, but at least have come from a place of like being able to do the best that I can.
And when we think we're judging others and we're resentful and angry at our parents, I think we're really mad at ourselves.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
This is a funny story too. So I was in yoga this Sunday, a couple of days ago, and that's my sanctuary. And I started getting really angry at my mom during yoga. And I'm like thinking, God, she fucked my kids up. She fucked me and my sister up. Like she just was cold. And I just started going down that rabbit hole. And then I interrupted myself like 10 minutes later. I'm like, okay, we're in yoga, dude, come on, let's get our shit together. And then I started praying for her and I started sending her healing, loving light and energy. And I did that for like 5 minutes. And then I felt at peace with her. I'm like, God, I love my mom. She's fucking awesome. Yeah. And literally like 10 minutes ago, I'm like, I just can't stand this bitch. Like and then an hour after yoga, she calls me. And she is in the best mood. And she's talking about this spiritual, show she saw in Vegas. And she brought Grayson with her. And she's like just full of joy and love and sharing it with me. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's probably a result of me sending her all that positive, loving energy.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
If I would have stayed with that, first thoughts and anger, like
you would have gotten a fight with your mom.
Well, first of all, she wouldn't have called.
No, yeah.
It's like, or if she didn't call, you were going to be like, hey, I'm busy, gotta go. Like,
and it was such a beautiful call, which doesn't happen that often. And I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So that power of like energy and prayer and transforming or transference of love is like real.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could just be looking at that person out there and just staring at him saying, I love you. I want healing and blessings and abundance for you, and just focus on that person. That person's going to look at me without a doubt within a matter of seconds, you know, because they feel that energy. Right.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just crazy, you know, to like have that ability. Like you said, it's like a superpower. Yeah. It really is. It's like a superpower.
We have no idea how powerful our minds are.
Right.
So check this out. It's like, when I first met my sponsor, I heard him talking about it. He goes, I don't see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. Right. Well, at that time, like, I'm still this scared, screwed up little kid. So everything I see is like terrifying and screwed up. Right.
Yeah.
So, man, people like really underestimate the power of talking back to your thoughts.
Well, that's why you got to change that scared little boy. Because if you keep telling yourself you're a scared little boy and the world's wronging you and you're just getting screwed in this world, guess what? You're going to continue to get what you get.
Absolutely.
You know?
So like the power of working the 12 steps, like removes these things blocking me from source. Right. And what it's removing is my fears. Right. Because all the harm I had caused in my life was always boiled down to reacting to some fear. You know, fear is the chief activator of our character defects. So, like, I get to that point, right? And I've been sober for a while, and I still have all these suicidal thoughts, right? Like, debilitating, terrifying suicidal thoughts. And the practice that I've been at for the better part of a year now, is literally talking back to those thoughts. Like, man, I still wake up that way, right? Like, I wake up, negative, terrifying stuff in my head instantly. But what I've been doing for a minute is, like, it'll come in, like, I see you. I see you. We're not doing that today.
You talk to it.
Yeah.
Like you're a third person.
Literally.
Like it's not real.
Literally. Yeah. But that practice, here's the whole journey of recovery me, right? Like, I started with these routines, right? And this is what I did with talking back to my thoughts. I started with this routine until it became a practice, until that practice became a discipline.
Yeah.
Right. So I will talk to my thoughts because I haven't gone and meditated yet. Right. And that's a whole nother thing is meditation to me. Like, I might take it too seriously. But,
I think meditation for me is something that is changing my life by the day. And it gives me that incredible power and light to where everything's okay. Like, even if I don't get anything that I want in my life, or what I think I want, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Not only that, I'll tell you an experience I had with meditation. Not only is everything okay, but I sat in meditation not too long ago, like a long meditation, and realized I've always been okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been okay. My reaction and my attachment to the things I thought were happening to me were just things that were happening that gave me fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived out of fear. Fear was my driving force.
Right.
And like, what's the opposite of fear? Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the long meditations I do, I don't know if I shared on this podcast or not, but I did one last week that was 3 hours. And it was a guided meditation. This woman did it in Chandler, this Israeli woman. And I got to that place of God, like I met God, my spirit guide took me there and I didn't want to come back. And I recorded the whole thing and they call it hypnotherapy. I called it a deep, deep astral, positioning of my mind, but I didn't want to come back. Like, I literally just wanted to stay there. And, a lot of people that have passed on were there with me. And like Ronnie Ham was there, and Grayson and a bunch of people I knew. And they were like, this is what we experience every day. Like, this is where we're at right now. And this is where we're learning. And it's so hard to explain the feeling. I don't know if you've gotten there, but it's like, it is better than any drug, it is euphoric. And like, I literally did not want to come back. Like, I was there for, 15 minutes and I'm like, please let me stay here.
Yeah.
Like, I want to stay here forever.
Yeah.
And the message I got back from God and my spirit guide is, you can come here every day.
Yes.
Like, you can come here every day. You don't need to die to come here. I mean, I know that's where you go when you die,
right?
But like, we can get there in our human form every day if we just connect our mind, leave the ego and connect our mind to that place.
Yeah.
You know, and I've tried a few times to get back there, and I've gotten to the point where it was 80% of where I was at, but still not that, you know, chilled to the bone, like,
No,
you know, like melting.
I know you feel like you're floating.
Yeah. I felt like I was floating.
I've been there once and I've never been back.
Oh.
I've been close and I've had really cool experiences. I've had experiences where I wasn't meditating, you know, like,
Yeah. I had a friend who came over for dinner last week, and he died for 10 minutes twice on the table when he's in the program. And I asked him what his experience was, and he shared it with me. And it was literally verbatim my experience of what I experienced on last Monday.
Yeah.
Exact. I mean, verbatim. He had a spirit guide. You know, it was a him, mine's a she. He took this guy to, you know, this spirit world and literally connected with God and all these other souls. And he said it was the most glorious thing in the world. And he was yelling at the doctor. He says he started yelling at the nurse and the doctor when they brought him back, because he's like, I didn't want to fucking come back. It felt so good. Now he's glad he came back because he has nothing. He says all the fear went away.
Yeah.
He goes, well, if that's the end game, what am I so worried about? You know?
Exactly. Like when it comes down to it, man, fear is so silly.
And it's so made by us, by our egos.
Yeah.
This is not God made.
It's made up.
It's a construct of the mind.
Right.
Like that's all it is. And like the thing with meditation and like, I've spent years practicing the removal of my fears. And every time like I'm shown how to walk through fear, a beautiful part of my life unfolds from the inside out, right? So the thing with meditation, if I've created this space within me that I can feel the source, why wouldn't I go there as often as possible?
Exactly. And it's really, for me, it's like, it's repetition.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight.
It's like repetition.
Exactly.
It's like brushing your teeth.
Yes.
If I brush my teeth every day and I go to the bathroom every day and I shower every day, it's like, okay, why can't I do this for 45 minutes every day?
That's why I lined it up the way I did. Routine, practice, discipline.
Yeah. Exactly.
For me, I literally, it's a line item on my calendar.
Yeah.
Like it has to happen, or things can start going. The fear starts coming back in. And I think it's that, you know, just pure repetition of acknowledging the fear, acknowledging it's not real, and doing the opposite of what the fear wants you to do. Yeah. And you do that enough that like, it becomes just like
normal practice,
and like, okay, this was fear. Who cares? Like, we're going to do it anyways.
But it's so noticeable to the outside world. Not that we're trying to get validation or approval from anybody but ourselves. But it's noticeable.
Yeah.
Like so I did that 10 days ago. I've had no less than 8 people come up to me and go, there's something different about you. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? And like this one lady, Ann, said, there's something different about you. Like your eyes are clear. There's an energy that's different about you. She goes, what have you been doing? Like, are you on a new antidepressant? Or I said, no, I just been meditating. You know, I didn't get into it with her.
Loving myself.
Yeah. Loving myself and just connecting with the infinite. Right. Yeah. And I'm not kidding you. Like, it was like maybe in the last 5 years, I've had maybe a dozen people tell me that I'm different. Within the last 10 days, I've had 6 people.
No, for sure. No. And I think just from being around, you know, you a lot for the last, 3 years, it seems like you're more approachable. Like, because maybe it's you're like, you're not have as much fear. Like you're okay with you. So other people can be approachable.
I mean,
like you're way more approachable now than like, before. I think that's what it is for me in my eyes. Not that you asked my opinion, but whatever.
No, you got it. You got it. Right. You know why that's so attractive to people? You know why people want to approach you? Because it's in them too.
Right. They identify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, they just don't see it. They don't feel it yet or whatever, but it's in them too.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I think when we're real, when we're real, whether it's that, which is bliss and euphoria and the infinite, or when we're sad and we're crying, or we're angry, or whatever it is, we can identify when people are like having real emotion, right? Instead of being fake.
Yeah.
Like, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. You know? Yeah. And I literally the night before was like, having the worst night of my life, like be real.
Yeah.
Like, well, you really want to know? Like, I'll tell you what's going on, like, here's what happened. Here's what's going on, and I'm trying to work through it. And like that's attractive because that's builds intimacy and that builds like connection.
Absolutely.
Instead of the small talk,
When you're honest to the level of like being able to not just like walk through the fear of sharing it with somebody, but share it without the intent of like wanting them to feel bad for you.
Or manipulating them.
Yeah, absolutely. The manipulation is huge.
Oh, I'm not okay. I need you to like take care of me. That's
make me okay.
Yeah, like that's not it either.
Yeah,
you don't want to share from a place of trying to get something. Right. You're sharing a place of human connection. Like,
absolutely.
We're all broken. We all love each other. And I want to let you know that I love you no matter what. It's like coming into AA for the first time. Like you feel that sense of love and acceptance no matter what or who you are and how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely.
And you're, by just sharing that same thing.
But that only happens in AA when you've decided to be 100% honest and vulnerable.
Right.
Yeah. And then you get that relief. Like I remember going to AA meetings and not being honest. And it's like, oh, I don't get it. But as soon as you're like,
you drop the rock.
You're like, oh, wow, this is what everyone was talking about. Right. And all I had to do was tell the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been a strong believer that you are who you surround yourself with. So if you're vulnerable and honest and that love comes to you, but that's you making that decision to be surrounded by these people who all want the same things, have the same ideas. You are a mosaic of all the different people in your life. So all of your past traumas are just small pieces of other people that were in your life. Same thing with like the foods you like or the music you listen to or just your personal spiritual beliefs are all pieces of other people that you've chosen to put into your life.
Yeah, yes. I like that where we're a product of our own environment. I used to, like you, I was a chameleon. I was hanging out with the rockers, hanging out with the stoners. I was whoever would hang out with me and accept me because I didn't like myself and I was scared to death of everybody. Yeah. So whoever accepted me, I'm like, oh, I'm you guys. And, I continued that. So when I found my drinking crew, it's like, hey, I'm you guys. Yeah. And nowadays it's like, I don't want to hang out with people that are just sitting there judging other people and sitting there talking shit about other people and talking about their material goods or whatever it is. I want to be around people that are real, expressing emotions. And, that's not reality because I can't do it all the time, but I can pick and choose where I want to spend time and who I want to spend time with. And it's just a lot more peaceful. It's like I can breathe easier when I'm around people that don't trigger me. Yeah. When I'm around people that trigger me, it's like I got to do the work just to not be triggered. Right.
Or just to sit there and get through it. Right. Like when I'm triggered, I'm like, I'm sitting there and I feel the thing in my stomach and I'm just fighting everything I have to like not like get up and run away or not not freak out, to just like sit there and be in it is like, it's tough sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah. But like Soraya was saying, like being a product of your environment, like that's very true. But it's also just as true on the other side. Your environment is a product of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so you create your own environment.
Exactly. So. Right. So it's like through doing the work and looking inside and like learning what it really means to love myself. Before I knew it, I attracted people who were seeking to love themselves.
No question. Well, like my mom, that example I just gave, like the fact that I put that out there and I was praying and loving on her and saying, God, please heal her. God, give her blessings, shine her light on you. And boom, she called me and we had a real connection. Like if I did that every day with everybody in my life, who knows what I'm going to attract? It's going to be beautiful, right? I mean, it's going to be glorious.
The universe is a mirror.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be incredible. You were thinking, well, that Will Ferrell movie right there.
I think the thing about when you can not be controlled by fear is that, they talk about what makes up a really good leader and a really good, person that people want to follow. And it comes down to, do you believe your value set and what you believe in, what you stand for more than the person, if there's 10 people in a room and you deeply believe in what you're doing and what you stand for, eventually everyone's going to follow you because you
or leave you.
Or leave, but then they were never going to follow you to begin with. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's why it's so important to do the work. And for me, getting into this other program to address, the laundry list is like where like I really truly got relief, because I was 4 or 5 years sober and I was miserable.
Yeah.
Like, but drinking wasn't an option, right? That was 100% off the table, or doing drugs, but it was fighting that inner thoughts of like, okay, well, we're not gonna drink and we're not gonna do drugs. So let's have these crazy negative thoughts come creeping into our head of like, all right, well, I mean, how can I do this where it won't impact anyone else, right? Like, how can I just go away quietly, or what, all that stuff. And now like you get through, you do some of the work and get some relief from the laundry list items. Like, it's like,
you don't need to be a people pleaser.
It's next level. No. And then when you see people pleasing, you're like, oh my God, I have so much compassion for you. Right. Yeah. Like, that's not a good place to be, because if you just end up running around in circles and making yourself miserable. Right.
Yeah. I have all these little spiritual awarenesses in sobriety. I've been sober 24 years. And it's like, I've been having one the last 90 days. And it's like, I realized like what I've been doing for my career for the last 15 years, it's like, I just don't love it. It's not my passion. I was doing it to make money. I was doing it maybe to make friends, to look good, to gain some material things maybe, but it like wasn't my passion. Like, this is my passion. Helping others is my passion.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I think I was just bred in that environment where that's what you do. You grow up, you make money, you get a career, you get some nice things, you talk about your nice things, and it's like, wait, it just seems empty,
Yeah. I heard something once. It's like the goal should be to live a pleasant life and support others along the way. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Like, man, that sounds pretty gnarly, because you hear a lot of people talk about freedom, right? And usually, like, some people think about, financial freedom, right? Like being financially secure enough to behave free, where they get to do whatever they want. But behaving free invites like the destructive aspects of the human experience, right? The freedom that I seek and that I get from time to time is the ability to not listen to what my mind tells me.
Emotional freedom.
Yeah.
Emotional bliss.
And like, however heavily that comes in, you should take yourself out today. And now it's a reflex where I just, nah.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, I see you.
There he is. Yeah.
Like, man, like just for the last couple months, my ability to do that, like you guys said earlier, it feels like a superpower.
Yeah, like thanks for the feedback.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, it is amazing, because it is next level stuff to feel what we felt like in our meditations and connecting with ourselves. And like, the guy I just had coffee with, we were talking about how to combat fear. And one of the ways I combat fear is I write mantras on a daily basis. And I'm trying to get him to write mantras, and he's having a hard time coming up with some. But like the one I wrote today was, I'm a beautiful child of God. I am honest and loving. I am strong and can handle whatever comes my way. I am sober. I am smart. I am a spiritual being who is eternal. I live in the USA. I sleep and recharge my spiritual being every night. Like, just, whatever comes to my mind.
Yeah. You never cease to amaze me, bro.
But saying those things, I need to hear those things. Because if I don't hear those things, I'm like, you're a shitty father. You're not a good husband. She's going to leave anyway. So why even hanging out? Like, I mean, just on and on and on.
Yeah.
It just attacks,
Man, you've shared a couple things since we've been here that like I had no intention of sharing, but like I do the same thing. I write mantras. Yeah. And my most recent one is like, I am love, I am light, and I am open.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then feeling it. It's like saying it and then feeling it in your body. Like feeling it. It's just, I mean, it like gives me goosebumps and tingles. And when I read that to him, and then shared another story. He said he got goosebumps through his whole body.
Yeah.
And this guy's 120 days sober, you know, and just hanging on, you know? So
like, guess what, buddy? We're just hanging on too.
That's exactly. Everyone thinks we got it figured out, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing for my mantras and the stuff I'm doing now is really working on the present.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to control the fear and the fear coming in if you're just doing the next right thing and really genuinely like in the present, because a lot of the fear has to do with in the future or in the past. Yeah. But none of that stuff matters if all I care about right now is what's going on, the four of us in this room right now. Like the fear doesn't, it's harder for the fear to creep in.
Well, like Eckhart Tolle says, you know, the power of now, like he always says, like there's no emotional problem in the present. Yeah. The problem is in the past or the future, and you're either shaming yourself or worrying about the future.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's not reality. I mean, you can make that your reality if you live there.
Right.
But the real reality is what is happening in this very moment right now.
Yeah. Like who knows? I could walk out of here and be driving down Camelback and get in a car accident and die. And so all that stuff that I'm worrying about for in 5 years from now, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Right. Like it
goes back to what I was saying is like fear is so silly.
It's so silly.
Well, I don't know if you've ever read, and I wasn't a big fan of his because he really, when in human form, was kind of an asshole. But Steve Jobs wrote a beautiful essay a day before he died, and it was all over social media. You read that?
I've heard about it.
Yeah,
I never read
and it was beautiful, you know. And this is a man who just was full of anger and control and manipulation and greed, and he wrote this thing, and he said all that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he goes, all that matters is my connection with my family, friends, and God.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's all that matters. And here's a guy who created Apple and the iPhone.
And,
you know?
I think he takes it a step further and he says, if he could do it all again, he would give it all away.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he
wouldn't have done
like
any
for
of that.
one more day, he'd give it all away.
Right.
You know?
It was a really beautiful essay. And it's like, just shows you a guy who like, you know, one of the most influential guys of our time, technology wise, really broke it down and said, you know, all that shit is like the material world is bullshit.
Yeah.
The spiritual, emotional world is where it's at, like, you know?
Yeah. And back to being present, man, like this is all that exists. It's literally it. Like, oh, that moment's gone. Now we're on to this one.
Right.
That's gone. Now we're on to this one.
I have no fear of dying. I mean, you know, I'm not looking to take myself out today, but I got to tell you, I got no fear of dying, which I think makes living much more enjoyable.
Yeah, as soon as you let go control of
that's
end,
what the Buddha says, you know, it's like, if you don't have any fear of dying at all, it's like you could start living.
Then that's where the eternal life really comes in. It's like that. And once you let go, like, if I die, I die. Like, you know,
well, I mean, it
could be tomorrow. It could be in 20 years.
That's the true heaven, right?
And I think that there is something, and maybe from my wife, because she deals with a lot of comfort care and people dying, like, dying is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like people don't want to die and there's so much fear on it. But like at the end of the day, like dying
that's heaven.
Beautiful.
I mean, you can read you know, you can read the Quran, you can read the Bible, you can read the Torah. I mean, the eternal life and the heaven is in the non-human world, you know? And so that part's a no-brainer. Yeah. It's just, how do we make this part, you know, work and be happy and like, you know, because I think we're all here to have lessons and to have like, not necessarily lessons, but to work out shit that we're trying to work out our codependency, work out our control, work out our fears, work out our manipulation, work out, whatever it is, whatever our 7 deadly sins are, or any of our fears. I think we're here to work that out and trust God and connect with that eternal source of ours. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, once we got that figured out, then maybe we'll come back in another body and work something else out.
Yeah.
You know?
Have a different set of problems.
Yeah, a different set of problems. But I ain't leaving this shit until I figure out the codependency and the laundry list. And like I'll come back 10 more lives and have to do the same shit if I don't figure it out.
Yeah. And like, I think we will.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that I've gotten this far along and that I feel something in me that I've finally tapped into. Like, man, not only do I think I've been looking for this my whole life, I think I've been looking for this since the beginning of time.
And now you can expand on it. It's like, oh, this feels good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go back here.
But not only that, but like it's given me the ability of when something feels bad, I can just accept it. You know, the acceptance I can bring to nearly all my experiences is what really ties me into God, because people think of God and the source and they want the pleasant, great experience, right? But that's not my experience. What I found today through spiritual practices and just trying to stay true to myself is like, God was with me all along, right? It was in every bit of my dark. It was in every single suicidal thought. It was in my mother's death.
Right.
It was always
But
there.
your ego was running your humanness.
Exactly.
I mean, I look at my body as a partnership between Todd, the flesh, that's only going to be here for a certain period of time, and my eternal part of me, which I believe lives here and here in my heart. And it's a partnership.
Yeah.
You know, but we have free will too. So it's like, when I'm thinking about, dark thoughts, it's like, it's not like my spirit guide or my spirit part of me takes over and says, okay, Todd, we're moving you to the side. I got this. It's a partnership, and whoever's getting the most attention wins.
Right.
And if the human ego side that's living in fear gets all the attention,
suffering.
That eternal spirit side of me is getting less attention.
Yeah.
So.
And that will create suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think too, that what you're saying about the God's with you in the dark times, the good times, like I almost enjoy some of that. Like I've gotten to the point now where like when I have those, I mean, Todd will know, like when I used to be so over the top codependent that if like I was in a confrontation with my wife and I would immediately like crawl up into a ball, call everyone that would listen and be like, my life's over. It's this. And now it's like, I can get to a place where it's like, we have conflict and it's like, oh, cool. Like the stuff that's great, I enjoy, but the stuff that's not so great, I equally enjoy.
Yeah. And then you get to the point where, hey, you know what? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And if it works out, great. But it's only going to work out until I pass anyway. That's the longest thing.
But then once you get on the other side of that, and like that's when you can have like true intimate relationships with people and like have relationships that you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's not controlled, there's not some like altered motive or like, hey, I'm doing this because I want him to think that. And it's just like this crazy, I mean, it's the laundry list. It's the laundry list. It's
the laundry list is so well written,
and it has the depth of the laundry list. Like you just get through the first surface of it and being in the solution. And then like a little bit different kind of angle creeps up. And then it's like,
that's like,
it's this forever.
The funniest thing is like, after a year in ACA, I read the laundry list. I'm like, I just don't have these anymore. And then a guy in the program has been around a while. He goes, well, here, read this. I'm like, what's this? I'm like, oh, the other laundry list. I read this. I'm like, fuck, I got every one of these. So he's like, see, you're not done.
Yeah, man.
The control, the rigid control and manipulation, again, out of fear.
Yeah.
I'm either the scared little boy running under a rock and trying to people please and dance.
Yeah.
Or I'm the dictator trying to hurt and manipulate and scare and rage so everybody would listen to me. Either way, I'm a scared little boy.
Yeah.
In either side.
Yeah. Or you're scaring the little boy. Right. Because you don't want to deal with the little boy.
When I can observe that part of me from as much of an outside perspective as I can is when I can react differently.
Yeah.
Like, man, I almost sabotaged my dearest friendship I've ever had in my life just a couple of days ago because something didn't go my way. And I was scared again, scared little boy. Like, I'm going to lose this or I don't want to deal with this pain. I'll just set it on fire.
Yeah. That's the place I go to too.
Well, and again, we didn't have the tools when we were young to deal with hard conflict and fear and anger. So we learned to do destructive things, right? Because we didn't have that nurturing parental / upbringing. So now we do. It's like, no, I don't need to go burn it to the ground. I can just go to a quiet place and meditate. I can call my sponsor and go to a meeting. I can connect with God. Like we have other avenues instead of burning it to the ground.
Right.
You know? And that's a beautiful thing. So we're coming up on the hour.
Okay.
Any, I like to ask this question. What would current Tory tell 15-year-old Tory who's just getting into alcohol and dysfunction and all this trauma that's coming his way? What would current Tory tell 15-year-old Tory that's kind of scared to death and running hard?
Yeah. I tell him it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. And don't give up.
Don't give up. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love you. Thanks for coming on.
I love you, bro.
Yeah.
This
thanks
is amazing podcast. We're the Laundry List. Please review, rate, email us, and we will be back next week on the Laundry List.